We're just 2 months away from the next presidency, from what is really literally going to be the end of America as we know it, the end of democracy, or democratic republic if you must, but we are literally living the end of democracy in America. And I found an authoritarian regime survival guide. It's probably going to be a multi-part series, but I want to share this with you to help you understand what to expect in the coming months and years, and more importantly, how we can prepare now and what we can do. I'm Carolyn, and this is my political channel called As I See It, where I talk about everything politics, social issues, civil rights, and all kinds of things that are really important. I do also have a channel about RV life, where I share my life for the last 8.5 years living full-time in an RV. But this is about politics. So I found this authoritarian regime survival guide, and I am going to be reading a lot from it. This guide went viral in the U.S. around 2017, and it's been translated into a lot of languages from Turkish to Filipino. It was printed on placards during anti-Trump protests. It's been studied by American universities, even quoted by Joy Reid on MSNBC. And it was originally a bunch of tweets put out, signed your Eastern European friends, and a hashtag called Learn from Europe. So our Eastern European friends who have lived under authoritarian regimes put this together for us. And I'll put a link to it online. Someone actually put it all together in one document that we can read and learn from. And I want to share it with you in case you haven't seen it, and also kind of discuss it a little bit. So this is from our Eastern European friends who have lived under authoritarian regimes. This is coming from a place of experience and knowledge. So first of all, year number 1. What can we expect in the first year? And this is really kind of wow. Number 1. They tell us that the authoritarian or the dictator or the fascist, there's slight differences in those terms, just so that you know, but I kind of use them interchangeably. They're about the same. Basically, it means that one bad person is going to control everything. and do it in not democratic ways. But what they say is they will come to power with a campaign based on fear, scaremongering, and distorting the truth. Outright lies.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
We don't have terrorists. They don't even know, because they don't know who's coming. So we have this open border. It's a sieve. It's like water pouring through. People are coming in by the hundreds of thousands. We have no idea who's coming in.
Conspiracy theories, right? The whole thing about immigrants hurting people, stealing your jobs. I mean, they have literally used immigrants to terrify people and trans. I think the two biggest groups right now that they are using to scare millions of Americans are trans people, which is ridiculous, and immigrants. They are big, scary people and the woke left. Actually, they're calling all of us the enemy of the state, that we are the ones who are leaving our borders wide open so that these scary Mexicans and Central and South Americans can come in and steal your jobs and do all, drugs and all kinds of crazy things they accuse them of. They accuse them of all these crimes that they're not committing. Immigrant crime is way lower than white American crime, and they are using that just to terrify people. So this authoritarian guide says that they will come to power through democratic means, which we have seen. This will be their argument, they say, that every question to their legitimacy, every time we push back on Trump and his policies in the next months and years, he is going to say, I have a mandate. The people voted, the people spoke, this is what they want. And we need to remind people, as of right now, he did not get 50% of the popular vote. His popular vote margin has been decreasing as the counts have been going on. And as of now, more than 50% of Americans voted for somebody besides Trump. We need to remind ourselves of that. We need to remind people who voted for him or who didn't vote at all. He does not have a mandate. And what they say is, even if he did have a mandate, even if a majority of Americans did vote for him, gaining power through a democratic process does not give him permission to cross legal boundaries, undermine our democracy, and do away with our Constitution. Even if he was democratically elected, he is not allowed, per the Constitution, to break laws. Okay? We have to remember that. Number 2, this authoritarian regime, the leader, Trump and his MAGA sycophants, will try to divide us and to rule. Their strength is in unity, in one voice and one ideology, and so should ours. They will call their supporters patriots, the only true Americans. We, on the other side, will be labeled as traitors, enemies of the state, unpatriotic, corrupt, elite, the old regime trying to regain power. Their supporters will be the people, the sovereign, who chose their leaders, and we will be dubbed the enemy. And while the talking heads and the people in power who are supporting this authoritarianism that's about to come into America, the MAGA politicians and big business owners and oligarchical elite, which is what they are the oligarchy, they are trying to make it sound like those who voted for Trump are the real patriots and the rest of us are the enemy of the state. But what I am seeing in all the social media from the average Trump supporter, they think that we are brainwashed. So they may not necessarily go to the lengths of thinking that we are the enemies of the state, but they think we are brainwashed. We need to not let them divide us. I am seeing a lot of anger, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blaming, a lot of shaming on the left. If we allow them to divide us, we lose. We cannot let them divide us. We are one people, one nation with a common good. Remember, even with the brainwashed Trump supporters, we have more in common than what divides us. And I know I've said this before, and I am a work in progress. I can't speak to people who voted for him right now. I just can't, no matter who they are. All I keep thinking is, you voted for a rapist. They don't think he's a rapist. I think maybe when the shit hits the fan and everybody starts suffering, it might be a little easier to have empathy for them. Right now, I know it's really hard. But again, if we stay as divided as we are, if we continue to draw that line in the sand and say we are on the right side of history, you are on the wrong side, we good, you bad, and both sides are doing that. They're doing it just as much as we are. One side is based in reality and fact, the other isn't, of course. And I know that's very divisive. It's really hard. But we have to not let them divide us. Number 3, they will subjugate state media, turning them into a propaganda machine. Then through convoluted laws and threats, they will attempt to control all mainstream media and limit the freedom of the press. They will ban critical press from their briefings. We saw Trump do this. It was Jim Acosta, right? He banned, calling them liars and fake news. They will brand these media as unpatriotic and as acting against the people. Now, we saw Morning Joe and Misha, is that her name? Misha? Mika. Morning Joe. We are all up in arms, outraged over them sitting down at Mar-a-Lago with the next president. And I said immediately it was self-preservation. They did this because they know what's coming down the pipe. They know Trump is threatening to jail or worse or shut down any media that doesn't praise him, because that's what dictators do. So they sat down to meet with him as a matter of self-preservation. And I don't know if they think, or if they've convinced themselves that they're also doing it for the good of the people, that they are going to cozy up to him now so that they can continue to report the news, which is extremely idiotic. They are not going to, even if they cozy up to him now and get on his good side, in order to stay on his good side, they're going to have to keep kissing his ass. So I think they did it for self-preservation, and they sold out the American people. That's how I see it. They sold out the American people, because you can't cozy up to a dictator and be on the side of the people. Those two are mutually exclusive. Because like I said, as soon as they fact check him, as soon as they honestly report on him, they will lose that status, and they know that. So it was all about self-preservation. But with that said, let's hope the Rachel Maddows and the Lawrence O'Donnells don't cave, and all the other independent journalists. We need to fight for every media outlet. We are really, really mad at the CNNs and the MSNBCs right now. We are really mad at them because I firmly believe they are partially to blame for where we are by sane-washing Trump, because it was much more clickable, the crazy, insane things he did, than the good things that Biden has done. So I blame them for this. All about profits, right? Not about the people, but all about the profits. But now is the time to put that behind us, because if MSNBC, CNN, and New York Times and Washington Post, if they do try to hold him accountable, if they do try to fact check him, we need to stand behind them, because without them, what do we have? I mean, yes, we've got a lot of independent media now. We see it on YouTube. There's a lot of newsletters and other sources coming out, but I still believe we need to protect. And that's what, not just me, our European friends here in the Survival Guide are telling us. We need to fight for every media outlet, every journalist that's being banned, censored, sacked, or labeled an enemy of the state. There is no hope for freedom when there is no free press. As mad as we are at them now, and even some of our favorite anchors, when push comes to shove, we need to defend them. We need to stand up for democracy. Number 4, the new regime, the new dictator will create chaos, maintaining a constant sense of conflict and danger. It will be their argument to enact new authoritarian laws, each one further limiting your freedoms and civil liberties. They will disguise them as being for your protection and the good of the people. We are all up in arms, disgusted over his cabinet picks. Matt Gaetz, are you freaking kidding me? JFK for health and fitness, wellness. Here's the thing. That's all part of the plan. Putting incapable, incompetent, unqualified people in these positions is the plan. He is creating chaos in our healthcare system, in our legal system, in our justice system, everywhere. He is creating chaos, because when a country is in chaos, they are willing to give up their rights. Look at post 9/11. This is Authoritarian Playbook 101. He is going to create chaos. And here is what you need to do. You need to start planting the seed with MAGA now. Start letting your family members know, you know what, I'm just really concerned about you. I really think the next month's year is going to be really difficult for a lot of people. Stock up on your medications, get your vaccines, stock up on food and emergency supplies, because things are going to get really chaotic. And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Trump's economy is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I hear that. And I hear that you believe that. But please, I care about you. Things are going to get chaotic. And he's going to find a way to blame the Democrats or to pretend it's not bad. But it's going to get bad. So please just get an emergency supplies, get some emergency supplies in place. And they may not do it, they may not believe you, but you're planting the seed ahead of time about what is going to happen. And so when it happens, that seed will already be there. Oh, Carolyn warned me about this. That's weird. But Trump is telling me that it's not his fault. But so just planting these seeds now might help lower their brainwashing. It might help kind of eventually help them see the truth. So start planting the seeds now. And the guidebook says that we need to see through the chaos, the fake danger. We need to expose it before we wake up in a totalitarian fascist state. So start planting the seeds now. And when it happens, when people aren't able to afford groceries, we need to call it out. We need to use every platform we have, use our voices in every place we can to call it out. There are a lot of memes going around right now about what the current costs of goods are. I'll post it on my community tab. Save it. And then in a year, 6 months, we need to compare. Okay, well, you voted for him for the cost of groceries. Well, gas is now double what it was last year. Are you any better? We need to make sure we hold on to the truth. We need to make sure we are voices for the truth. There will be no other voices if we get into a total totalitarian regime. We need to expose it. We need to start planting the seeds now. Even if they don't want to hear it. Even if they're like, blah, 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 blah. Remember, you're not trying to convince them right now. You are merely planting seeds. Number 5, they'll distort the truth. They will deny facts and blatantly lie. They will try to make you forget the facts and sedate your need to find the truth. They want us complacent. They want us so exhausted that we just give up. And I got to tell you, I'm really struggling with that right now. It was a struggle to make this video. We're exhausted. 8 years of him or 10 years of him. But they will feed post-truths and alternative facts, replacing knowledge and logic with emotions and fiction. We need to continue to think critically, fact check, point out the truth, and expose ignorance with facts. So when people are on their fear-mongered rampages about immigrants and how dangerous trans people are, we need to calmly present them with truth and facts. Or even say, have you ever actually met an immigrant? Have you ever actually sat down and talked to a trans person? What are you really afraid of when it comes to trans people? What scares you, really? Because I think that's what the whole trans anti-LGBTQ thing really boils down to, is a fear of the unknown. They don't understand it. So we need to continue to expose ignorance with facts. You know, the fact is, trans people aren't grooming children, but priests are. What do you think of that? This is going to be hard. Number 6, they will incite and then leak fake superficial scandals. Biden laptop, anyone? Benghazi, anyone? They will smear opposition with trivial accusations, blowing them out of proportion and then feeding the flame. This is just a smokescreen for legal steps they will be taking toward totalitarianism. They are going to create more scandals. Our friends in Eastern Europe are warning us about what we've already seen. They will create problems in order to make laws to address those problems. Fake problems, like voter fraud, like election rigging, like illegal immigrants voting en masse, in large scale, in elections, and swinging elections and stealing elections. They created that whole lie, that whole conspiracy theory. And what did we see? We saw states across the country making it harder to vote, putting laws in place to address election fraud that wasn't there. There were literally fewer than 100 cases of election fraud in the last election. But this is what they're going to do. They are going to create fake conspiracies, fake problems, so that they can make laws. So watch out for our trans friends. Watch out for our LGBTQ friends. Watch out for our Black friends and our immigrants who are, if they're lucky enough to not get deported, all of a sudden problems are going to be created around women. Women voting, I don't know. I mean, maybe the next big fraud is going to be women, and so they're going to take away our right to vote. But watch that when they start accusing a group of people or start making up lies, false claims of conspiracies, of fraud, of illegality, it is so that they can start creating laws to suppress those people and those things. We saw it with voter fraud, and it's going to happen across the board. Number 7, they will propose shocking laws to provoke your outrage. They will propose shocking laws. They're doing it already. Mike Johnson, well, it's not a law, but no trans women in women's bathrooms in the Capitol. They are doing this on purpose to provoke our outrage. They will focus our efforts on fighting them, so they will seemingly back off, giving you a false sense of victory. In the meantime, they will push through less flashy legislation, slowly dismantling democracy. Focus on what really matters. They are experts at distraction. This is how Trump got where he is. And to my earlier point about the media, they fed this. They allowed him to distract us from what was really going on with his outrageous comments, his insults, his misogyny, his racism. We got distracted. We need to not let ourselves get outraged by every little idiotic thing they do that really is just a plant to distract us. I'm not saying that trans rights aren't important. I'm not saying that civil rights and voting rights aren't important. They are. But don't let the little daily distractions distract us from the bigger picture. Because while we're looking over here, they're over here plotting to completely take away our democracy. Stay focused. All right, I'm going to give one more for today so this video doesn't get too long, but there is a longer list. So number 8, and the final one for today, is when they are invading our liberal sensibilities, they'll focus on what hurts the most, women and minorities. They will act as if democracy was majority rule without respect for the minority. They will paint foreigners and immigrants as potential threats. Racial, religious, sexual, and other minorities will become enemies to the order and security they are supposedly providing. They will challenge women's social status, undermine gender equality, and interfere with reproductive rights. But it means they are aware of the threat of women and minorities and the threat that we pose to their rule. So we need to make this our strength. Remember, this is not coming from an American. This is coming from Eastern Europeans who have lived this. And if it sounds familiar, it's because I have been saying this. I keep thinking back to 2016 when he won, and I was in therapy and I was freaking out. And I was like, I talk a mile a minute when I'm passionate and when I'm stressed out. And I could tell that she was kind of like, okay, she's being a little, I felt, maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like she thought I was being a little dramatic. And here we are, exactly where I thought we would be. This is exactly in 2016 when he won. We ended up exactly where I knew we would. So This is not Americans. This is Eastern Europeans basically warning us that what happened to them is going to happen to us, and in language that we have seen play out in our own country. We have seen this. They took away our reproductive rights. They did away with the Voting Rights Act. Now they're targeting trans and gay people, and they're probably going to take away gay marriage. And I'm seeing these crazy right-wing guys talking about repealing the 19th Amendment, taking away our right to vote. They are targeting us because they know our power. And we all hoped that Kamala Harris would be the end of the patriarchy. We all hoped that we would finally put this period of patriarchal rule behind us. And they are so terrified of it. They are so terrified of us that they voted for a rapist and a misogynist and a racist. That's how afraid they are. And then when he won, they had the fucking audacity to proudly come out with "Your body, my choice" forever. So this is what they suggest we do. They say women and minorities have to be ready to fight the hardest, reminding the majority what true democracy is about, and we must fight together with them. I think that they're talking about women and minorities. We need to fight. We need to lead the fight. I did a video, the last video that I did, about how we can support Black women. Black women are feeling exhausted. We need to come together. I hope that we can find a way to work together, because if we don't, we all lose. And we all need to fight. But it is going to be up to women and minorities to save us all. It really is. And we need to remind the majority, we need to remind the people who voted for Trump that we don't have a country, we don't have a democracy if all people aren't free and equal. We need to remind them of that. We need to remind them that women are dying. We need to remind them that Black women are dying at higher rates. And is that really the country that you want? You really want to live in a country where, because we don't have bodily autonomy, women are dying unnecessarily? And we really need to remind people that equality means allowing gay people to live free and happy. They're not bothering anybody. So it's up to us to remind the people who voted for him what democracy and decency and humanity looks like. And we also need to remind them what it looked like when we didn't have those things. Do we want to go back to a time when owning people was okay? Do we want to go back to a time when it was legal for men to beat their wives? When women weren't allowed to have credit cards or bank accounts? Where women could get fired for being pregnant? Where Black women couldn't vote? And if they tried to, they were beaten or sexually assaulted or worse? Is that really the America you want back? That's what we need to ask the people who voted for him moving forward. All right, I hope this helps. I will do a part 2 later of this and go through the whole document. I'll put the link in the video description below in case you want to read it for yourself. I want to thank you all very, very much for being here. It just means the world to me that you give me a platform for talking about things that I care very, very deeply about. And I care very deeply about this country. I care very deeply about the promise of this country and what we can become if we all continue to fight for it. That's how I see it. Let me know your thoughts below. I'll see you soon.